What's the most horrifying rite of passage you've escaped? The story is not for the faint of heart. The ending may shock you. In my homeland, the turning of 16 was marked with a ritual called the descent. Girls were sealed inside earthen chambers overnight, a test of endurance and purity. It was said that only those who made peace with death could become wives. Every woman I knew had passed through it. My mother, my sisters, my cousins. All of them returned changed. They carried silence in their bones and shadows in their eyes. Some never stepped into dark rooms again. No one spoke of what it was like down there, but we all knew girls who hadn't returned. When I was 13, I watched them bury my cousin Alira. Her chamber was carved from clay, packed by hand. They gave her a small jug of water and a matchbox with one match. If she lit it, it meant she had failed, afraid, unready, shamed. Lighting it meant her name would never be spoken again. She survived, barely. When they pulled her out, her lips were cracked, her nails bloodied from clawing at the walls. She didn't speak for weeks, but she hadn't lit the match. That was the year my mother began preparing me. She'd blindfold me for hours, forcing me to sit motionless in the cellar. She pressed weighted blankets over me as I lay in the crawl space beneath our house, training me to welcome the heaviness. I had 3 years to plan, 3 years of collecting pieces. I stole tools from the orchard sheds, tubes from irrigation lines. I learned to breathe slowly, to dig in silence. The ritual chambers were mapped on parchment at the council's temple, rows of shallow earth beds, each marked with a family crest. I found mine. I started tunneling, 10 feet down, then 4 feet across. I created a crawl space with vent shafts lined in reeds. I hid flash stones, dried biscuits, a flask of herbal sedatives from the apothecary. I timed how long I could lie still without panic. I trained like it was war. On my 16th sunrise, the whole village stood in white. My father carried the clay seal himself, kissed my forehead. My mother tucked silver charms into my hair. The elders chanted over the soil. They spoke of virtue and silence, and what it meant to be worthy. They sealed the entrance. I listened to the last thump of mud. The world vanished. Once I was alone, I broke through the softened wall I'd crafted and slipped into my hiding space. Air whispered through the reeds. I drank. I breathed. I waited. 7 hours in, I heard a second chamber being filled. Then the sound of muffled sobs, frantic banging. The match, she struck it, but no one came. They never did. I couldn't leave her. I broke the dirt wall between us with my makeshift spade. A girl fell into my tunnel, trembling, her face streaked with clay and tears. Her name was Sira. She was 15. Her parents had rushed the ritual when they found her reading from a forbidden book. We stayed hidden together. I shared my supplies, taught her how to slow her breath. We whispered about all the things we wanted: freedom, sky, names that didn't end in silence. When the villagers unsealed the chamber, they expected to find either a corpse or a compliant girl. Instead, they saw two, covered in mud, clinging to each other, alive, unbowed. The crowd murmured. Someone gasped. The elders were furious. My mother looked as though her skin had turned to ash. My father hissed that I'd stained our bloodline, but I stood in front of them all and told the truth. About the tunnel, about Sira's match, about the silence they taught us to carry. The council met that night in a frenzy. My parents barred my window and tried to pretend it hadn't happened, but the whispers had already started. By dawn, they dragged me from my bed. A second burial, this one without supplies. My chamber was smaller this time, the walls freshly hardened. My father's eyes were wild. My mother's were empty, but Sira's family stood in the path. They refused to move. 3 more families joined them. The village chronicler, who had come to record my rebirth, had captured the first rescue on his lens stone. He leaked it to the border towns. Before they could bury me again, riders arrived, outsiders with authority and cameras and questions the elders couldn't dodge. They pulled me from the chamber after just 2 hours. The ritual unraveled under sunlight and scrutiny. My family cut ties, held a public mourning, buried a clay likeness of me in the chamber, and declared me lost to darkness. They tell strangers I didn't survive the descent, that the thing walking among them is not their daughter. My mother turns her face when she sees me. My father crosses the street, but my youngest sister, Yuna, she won't be buried. Not now, not ever.